So, welcome along. I'm so chuffed to be here with my good friend Paul Gordon.
Hello.
Now, I was trying to think this morning, Paul, how long we've known each other, and it is years, literally. I would say probably the first time that we met was at Portsmouth Jumbo Day.
Probably, but I think the days of Paul Carr.
Yeah.
Before that, isn't it?
Yeah, quite possibly.
Yeah.
Paul Carr is a name that I don't think lots of people are going to actually remember, but it's certainly a force to reckon with.
Yeah.
reckon with. But it was certainly my introduction to your material, and I've loved it ever since.
Oh, bless you.
My the first book that I got was Nocturnal Creations,
Oh, yeah.
and to this day I still do Millennium Collectors.
Oh, yes.
And I still do Easy Ace Estimation,
Oh, yeah.
and several other great things from the book. Pack Triumph, the wallet.
Play it straight into the. I can't remember what I called it now.
Play it straight into the wallet.
Play it straight into the wallet. Yeah.
Fantastic routine.
Thank
It
you.
is a really very good routine, and so are the other two, and all the other effects in the book are well worth consideration if you can get hold of a copy.
Yeah. It went out of print nearly 20 years ago.
Is it really?
Yeah. So all the good stuff in there is in gold dust. So.
Right. Well, there we go. So accessible.
Plug number one.
I love it. I love it. So plug number two.
Plug number two.
Your most recent book, Article 52.
Yeah.
And as per usual, full of gems. I will just go on record as saying this though: the first trick in here is worth the price of the book in its own right.
Oh, thank you.
I saw someone do that. James Ripley.
James Ripley, yes.
James Ripley performed this on his Facebook page, and I thought, wow, that is really good. And it's one of those effects you watch it and you think, well, there's got to be some serious stuff going on here.
Yeah.
But as is atypical of your work, I feel you've really stripped it back so you don't lose any of the effect.
Well, thank you.
But you keep, but you've eliminated some much more difficult slights in places and things like that. So love it. Question for you, because this is an interview and I don't want to just talk. It always really strikes me as strange that there is always you've released a lot of books. And you've done your fair share of DVD releases as well, but you always seem to favour going back to the written word.
Yes.
And that strikes me as not strange, but in a world where DVD driven, streaming video driven, etc., why keep going back to the printed word?
Well, two reasons. Firstly, I prefer books myself, and a lot of the people that I know, like yourself, I think prefer books because. There's something that you can put in a rucksack and take down to the pub or a club, and you can flick through, and that joy of flicking through, and also there's a memory there.
Yeah.
I know it's not related to magic, but like for instance, my first Harry Lorraine book, which I've now had for 40 odd years.
Yeah.
When I open it, I can still smell my teenage years.
Right.
And some memory comes back.
Okay.
Commercially, they've always been huge sellers. Now. Say Nocturnal Creations, for instance, I sold 3,000 copies.
Right.
And I think that is well known in the book world as a bestseller.
Yes. Yeah.
And then the same with, for instance, this only came out 5 or 6 months ago, and it's already sold nearly 1,000 copies.
Right.
Which is extremely good in this day and age, especially. But also. Another reason, which is they're not so easy to copy, are they?
No, that's very true, and we unfortunately do live in a world where things such as DVDs and even streaming videos, despite best efforts, can be copied.
And also, just one more thing about it is as well. And it's not a snobbish thing, but people who are really interested in magic will go to the books, whereas people who are just vaguely interested will look at downloads, DVDs, and YouTube and so on. And so I think. I've always hidden some really hidden gems hidden in the books. Yeah. Like the one you mentioned, the Mind Boggler.
It is a fantastic routine, and for an opening effect in the book, I can see why it's the first one in there.
I thought it'd be a good one to start with.
There must also be a certain sense that, and you just touched on it there, that when it comes to a book, there is an active state that you have to go through when you're reading the book. You have to get the book off the shelf. Yeah. You have to open it up. You have to read through it. Yeah. You have to engage that part of the brain that you don't get with streaming videos necessarily.
No.
Or DVDs. as I know you're aware, and on today we are filming your second academy.
Yes.
That's kind of the feel that we're trying to impart in the academy. Is it's not just sit mindlessly in front, but interact and get that part of the brain working. As you've experienced before with your previous one.
Well, thank you. I mean, the other thing just about the books, if I can, is I write in a very, as you know, I write in a very conversational, easy to understand manner because I'm dyslexic.
Right.
So when I was young, I found the very academic books hard to read. So I write in a very easy manner. I also write in a way that I try and describe each trick in 1 or 2 pages at most.
Yeah.
I don't describe too much presentation and patter. I do a little bit, but basically I give you the nuts and bolts in my writing so that you can then flourish on your own with your own style.
Right.
Because some of us are funny, some aren't, some will do clubs and pubs, some don't, some will do just after show parties, some are professional, some are amateurs.
Yeah, and like you said just then, what works for you may not necessarily work for someone else, and I think, and it's certainly conversational style writing, and I think far more engaging than some of a lot of other books. I mean, I've read lots of magic books, and it is. Someone mentioned once that it's like reading a technical manual in a burning hot desert on the hottest day of the year. It's like it drives you mad sometimes, and you're thinking, what exactly are they saying here?
I know, yes.
And why is that? Why is that doing that? But you're right. Your book, your writing style is very engaging.
Thank you.
And it's engaging to the point where you think, you actually feel that you're there with them, saying, "Oh, this is what you do."
And I don't write the effect. You know, a lot of people say in a book they write the effect to start with, so that the effect is written and then the trick.
Yeah.
But I don't need to do that. I've always felt, like Harry Lorraine says, they've already bought the book.
Yeah.
So if you write the effect, so let's say my easy ace estimation, and from another book, if I said in the effect that you cut the aces one by one, da 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 da.
Yeah.
Well, it's going to be in the description of the trick anyway.
Yeah.
But I always think if I just write the description, you may find a trick that you wouldn't do if you only read the effect.
Yes. Yeah. That does make sense.
Because sometimes, like the head-to-head poker thing from Gold Dust, I've had people say, "Oh, I don't like poker routines." I said, "Well, just try it."
Yeah.
And it might.
Quite. Yeah, and you're right. Sometimes I think you have the description there, and you kind of create. I mean, it can go 2 ways, I guess, but I a lot of the time you read an effect and you think, right, okay, well that might sound too complicated, or that's not the sort of effect that I would try. But you're right, you've got to try it. You've got to experience these sort of things to see whether they're good or not. You can't just base it on what's been written. Or counter.
Expecting that. Is that because I'm here?
It is. It's the popular. It's gone out there. It's
what's going down?
So, Paul, I'd love you to show me, I'd love you to show the viewers an effect from the book, if you don't mind.
Am I performing it to you, or to sort of kind of camera, or a bit of both?
You can do it to both. And this effect is called?
It's called the 4 4s.
Excellent.
It's from Article 52, and it's with a borrowed deck, because Andrew knows that, because these are your cards, I believe, aren't they?
They are, yeah.
Okay. Now, some magicians will ask you to choose a card by taking a card out of the deck that way.
Okay.
Some will kind of dribble the cards like that. Some do one of these fancy fans like that, and so on. Sometimes you may feel like it wasn't a particularly free choice.
Right.
But I'm going to run my thumb down the edge of the deck like this, and I'd like you to stop at any position that you want. All right?
Stop.
Now, you sure?
Yeah.
That's about a third of the way down. I'd like you to take the card, have a good look at it. Can you show the camera? You got it?
Yeah.
And I was going to place it about halfway in the deck. You remember it? I suppose I could look at the camera and I'd be able to see the whole thing, but I won't do that. I'm also going to give the cards a shuffle, and this is the best shuffle we know. In fact, that's not quite. I want you to tell everybody here. Is that a good shuffle?
That is a good shuffle.
There's a couple not quite mixed on top, so I'll get rid of those. All right. Now, can I just move that a little bit of an angle there?
Yeah.
What was the value of the card? Not the suit, just the value.
4.
4. F-O-U-R. 4. Of. O-F. Clubs, hearts, spades, or diamonds.
Clubs.
C-L-U-B-S. 4 of clubs. Am I right?
Yeah.
Now, there's 2 ways of doing this, Andrew, with applause all the way we're doing it now.
Okay.
But, you see, as you got the 4 of clubs, wouldn't it be nice to turn these packets over and find that we had the other 4s as well?
That's great. And there's the applause. There's the applause.
There we are.
And this again, and I've said it a couple of times during this segment here, is atypical of your work. Very direct, very
quick, isn't it?
Exactly. Yeah. And you go for. If there was one way of describing the type of magic that you do, I'd say go for the jugular. It's punchy.
It's punchy, isn't it?
Yeah.
And kickers. You know, I mean, some people say it probably derogatory. Some say it's a nice way, but I am the king of the kickers. Because I work, I work in clubs, pubs and restaurants, like you did. If I just go back to that, where we were there, that's a strong trick for laymen, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, I knew, I forced the 4 of clubs, you know that, but it was a good force. So I could have named it, but I didn't, did I?
No.
All right. So I don't want people to think that I knew the card in advance, so I leave it there.
Yeah.
So for laymen, that's strong. So when you have that little pause there where they applaud, and I say, hang on a second, that's not all, because as you chose the 4 clubs, wouldn't it be nice to get the other 4s as well?
Yeah.
For such a simple trick, that gets such a strong
response.
Yeah,
exactly. And you mentioned kickers there. I think at the end of the day, kickers have their place. And to be fair, lots of effects or routines that end up with kickers generally don't have anything to do with the original effect.
No.
This has everything to do with the original effect.
Yes.
So that kicker is more than justified, and you have this. It's like a wave. We've got the wave of the 4 of clubs, and then just as it's here, you're like, and this happens. And they're like, wait, and it kind of goes up again. Whereas a lot of times, kickers, a great example. You do Matrix, and you end up with a jumbo coin at the end.
Yeah.
People only remember the jumbo coin; they don't remember the other bit.
Well, that's.
Whereas in this,
that's the whole thing is together, isn't it?
Exactly.
Now, before we move on from that, because I've got to put you're a member of the Magic Circle, aren't you?
Yes.
Have you got your card on you?
Maybe.
If you've got your card on you, you can cut this out if you don't like this bit. But this is why I created this trick.
Oh yes. Oh.
That's why I created it.
Yes. So for those that are in the know, there is a special thing that happens with the Magic Circle membership cards, which is to do with augmented reality.
Well, it's just that really. It's just the.
Oh yes, sorry, Well, you've got the augmented reality bit, but you have a revelation here as well. So always thinking. I like that. I like that
because in the Magic Circle there was a competition for coming up with a trick utilising the card, and that was it.
Well, there we go. There we go.
And a simple. I keep looking. I don't know which camera. Is that the camera?
That's the camera.
Oh right.
Yeah,
okay. You're doing bad side. Hang on. Right. Can we start the interview again?
No, we can't. That's brilliant, Paul. Thank you very much for sharing that with us. I just wanted, because this is a book corner, hence the reason why we're doing this. Any quick tips for approaching reading a magic book, or sort of magic books that you think are worth reading?
I really do as well. I mean, I think this is. I know a lot of people say, I prefer DVDs or I prefer downloads and this, that and the other. Now, I'm not saying those people are lazy, because I know what it's like to open a book and go, oh, God, now what? The best tip I have on any magic book, not just mine, I'm not just plugging, is just to start at the beginning and work through every item.
Yeah.
Because you'll never know whether a trick is suited for you or not unless you try it.
Yeah.
And I'll give you, for instance, why I became a victim to that thinking years ago. When I was about 15 years old, I bought one of Harry Lorraine's books. I had lots of them, but I didn't think I liked this one in particular.
Right.
And I thought, I'm a bit disappointed. There's nothing in there I particularly like, and I didn't like the look of it. And I went to a lecture of his about a month after, and he did, 20 routines. And he said, and ladies and gentlemen, they're from my new book. And I went straight home and started reading it again properly. Right. So what I mean is, I thought that it wouldn't be for me. And so, like I said, in my writings, 1 or 2 pages will describe them. But literally just, there's no rush. Yeah. People think they have to buy a book. I mean, I've had people buy books of mine, and then within about a week later, they're on Magic Week somewhere.
Yeah. Shame on you.
Shame on you, yeah. I mean, in any magic book, I've seen people say, I've seen it on Facebook where people say, I'm looking for so-and-so. I saw one recently, I'm looking for Out of Control by Chris Kenner. Yeah. Chris Kenner. And then a week later, the same person's putting it out for sale. Yeah. And then you see somebody perform a trick from it, and the same bloke says, I'm looking for a copy of... Because he now wants to buy it again. Yeah. And I did it with Article 52. This guy said, I don't think it's really for me. I think I was going to sell it. And I put 2 or 3 videos on Facebook, and then the guy goes back and reads it. Yeah. So... just plough your way through a book. There's no rush, and also keep any books you have, because years later, I still am. I go back to old books, finding stuff that didn't suit me then. Yeah. that now suit me now, or I can now do now.
Yeah, exactly, and they're always constant sources of inspiration as well.
Yeah,
and you look at them, and you know, and you're probably the same, being that you're a book man, and I am the same as well.
Yeah.
Sometimes I'll buy a new book and I start reading through it, and it'll reference something, and I think, oh, do you know what? And then you look at that and you think, wow, that's really good.
Yeah.
And then you kind of assimilate and put together, possibly, I mean, you might not like the entirety of this routine, but like lots of this bit, apart from a small bit. So you can start merging effects together.
That's right.
And creating routines and thinking about the way that you sort of composite stuff.
Yeah.
That's brilliant. That's really good.
By the way, that was when I was being auditioned for James Bond. James Bond.
Yeah, there we go.
Last year.
You were robbed.
I was robbed, wasn't I?
Yes, very
Do you think
much
they'd
so.
like a 60-year-old James Bond? Just saying. I could turn up my Zimmer frame. My name's Bond. Brooke Bond.
Yes.
Basildon Bond.
Basildon Bond. So this is Article 52. Do yourself a favour, check this book out. Check out all of Paul's work, including our best-selling Gold Dust DVDs and Quidnunc Plus. Thank you.
Yeah.
But yeah, check it out, guys. Paul, thank you so much for coming in. Look forward to your academy this evening.
Thank you, Andrew.
And guys, this has been myself, Andy Smith, the man.
Paul Gordon.
Excellent.
Oh, it's good night from me.
We're not going to do that.
No, we're not going to
do that.
Yeah.
And I look forward to seeing you again soon.
Bye-bye.